Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that anyone that builds a mosque for the sake of Allah, Allah will build for him the likes of it in paradise. If you are looking to help build a mosque, look no further than my humble little mosque here in Koh Phangan, Thailand. Currently, we are trying to buy a small amount of land for a few reasons. One being that as it stands, we only have a small amount of parking and it's only enough for a few motorbikes and not even enough for a car. As well, the entrance to get into the mosque is like very, very small. And so we could, by purchasing this land, we could expand those things. And also, inshallah, by purchasing this land, it would allow us to expand the mosque itself and also have room for a small school where children and also men and women can learn about Islam. So the patrons of the mosque already have gathered around half of the money, but we need more, about $45,000 USD. So if you feel called to do so, please, for the sake of Allah, donate any amount, large or small, by using the link in the description down below, and may Allah bless you generously for doing so. Mashallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What is going on, guys? It is Daniel. We're back here again today. Today we're going to be looking at this video from Mr. Peter Santinello. Some of you may know him. He's a travel YouTuber. He travels all over the world, but he makes these sort of interesting films about all different kinds of cultures and people and things around the world. And they're typically pretty engaging videos. They're pretty interesting videos. I think this guy, to me, comes across as being quite open-minded and quite sincere and very curious. And so in this video specifically, he is doing a bit about Islam in the USA, and he's from the USA like myself. So this should be a pretty interesting video. I'm really interested to check this out because I have accepted Islam since moving to Thailand. I've never engaged with the Islamic community in America, although I'm curious as to know what it would be like to do so. So I think I'll get a good glimpse of what that would be like here in this video. So inshallah, that will be the case, and I invite you to watch it with me. So let's get into it.
Are highly misunderstood. Give us the opportunity to know one another.
You would be considered conservative, right?
What scale are we using here?
In English you say God, in Arabic I say Allah, but we are speaking about the same entity.
This was a church, a Baptist church.
In Europe, there's a lot of racism. American society is a lot more open. We do recognize there are extremist Muslims, but here in the United States,
America is a great country to live in, to prosper. But there is one thing.
when some Muslim bad apple does something wrong, 1.8 billion people all of a sudden have to be held responsible. Jesus is mentioned over 100 times in the Quran, more than the Prophet Muhammad. So for those Americans who might be concerned, Islam is on the rise. What changes are going to happen to our country? These Muslims taking over.
I didn't know that Prophet Isa sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioned more times than Muhammad, peace be upon him. I didn't know that. Also, he said something else interesting, about how if one Muslim does something wrong, then suddenly it's every Muslim's fault. That does seem to be true, and it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting when you look at who controls the media, who owns most of the media, and how they portray Muslims in the media. It is definitely interesting.
We're very, very fortunate to meet Hassan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
For non-Muslims, what would be an easy association? You're sort of like a priest or a pastor?
So this is in Michigan, I believe, in Michigan. I'm American, I don't even know. In Minnesota or Michigan? I think it's probably Michigan because I have heard that there's a large Muslim community in Michigan. So I imagine that's where he is.
No, I serve as a brother and as a servant.
But you're a religious leader.
Yes.
Okay.
And basically the title, my official title is Imam.
And so the best way to address you is Imam.
Yes.
Okay, so Imam, you grew up in Iraq?
Yes.
And you've been here how long?
I moved to this country in end of 1992.
So for those that are not Muslim in the United States, please walk us through, unpack it for us, because many people associate Islam with a negative thing.
Yes.
They're bad actors and everything, obviously. But what would you say? What would be an easy way to unpack it for the non-Muslim? And guys, I just want to let you know, I'm trying to hit Islam from all different angles. A more conservative angle, which is you. I've hit a more liberal-leaning angle. Because the word Muslim, you can't put a label on it, right? There are many different types. But I'll let you go with that, Imam.
You can put a label on the word Muslim. Muslim is actually quite simple. Being Muslim is actually quite simple. You can see the simplicity of the message within our own Shahada. It's one sentence. I think it's just one run-on sentence. Whereas if you look at something like the Nicene Creed, that they must agree to accept the Christian faith, it's quite complex. It's actually very complex. It's like a whole paragraph. And so it is simple. Being a Muslim is simple, and there's not types of Muslims. There's Muslims that claim to be within sects, and there are technically sects within Islam, but in original Islam, in the Quran, there's nothing about this. There's no sect of Islam in the Quran. In fact, the Quran encourages us not to do this, not to become sectioned.
How would you
Well, in order
unpack
for me
that?
to make it very simple for our American viewers to get a realistic grasp of what Islam is and who Muslims are, I would say there is a father who fathered the 3 children. And probably often those brothers were estranged. But now they are getting closer. So the first son was Judaism.
Right.
And the second one was Christianity. And now we have the third brother, which is Islam.
So the Abrahamic religions, a lot of the same
Exactly. We
characters.
have so many commonalities
Yeah.
with the Christianity and Judaism. We all revere Prophet Abraham.
Yeah.
He is a sacred figure in all those 3 religions. We all worship God. We use different names. So in English you say God, in Arabic I say Allah, but we are speaking about the same entity, same God, basically.
How are your feelings about being in the States, coming from Iraq? You've seen the histories of the two countries, obviously, geopolitically, which probably hasn't been an easy journey for you. How has it been for you to be Iraqi in the USA? What are your experiences?
Look, I have to be fair and honest.
Yeah.
There is no better country for me to live in right now than the United States. I found freedom in this country. I found dignity in this country. My family literally was massacred in Iraq under Saddam Hussein. We lost 16 members of my family under Saddam.
Wow.
We were denied living in our country, in Iraq. That's why we left Iraq to Kuwait, then to Iran, then to the United States. America is a great country to live in, to prosper, but there is one thing about this country, the gap that exists between Muslims and non-Muslims. There is so much misunderstanding
Right.
among American non-Muslims about Islam. And maybe it is not their fault. It could be our fault that we have not reached out. We have not done enough outreach work to educate Americans about Islam.
Ma, he brings up a great point here, and this is something I thought about myself, where, as a whole, I mean, relatively speaking, I would say personally that America is not a very religious country, especially when you look into populations that are within the major cities. And that being said, everyone in America, for the most part, you can say as a general rule of thumb, has been exposed to the message of Christianity, and they get it somewhat. They've had an opportunity to receive that message, whereas you cannot say the same with Islam. Me personally, growing up in the Midwest of USA, I never received the message of Islam. I even learned about Buddhism in school. They mentioned Hinduism in school. They never mentioned Islam. I never understood what a Muslim was. I just saw it on the TV. Okay, we're fighting them. They're bad. They have guns. There must be something wrong with them. I don't know. Do they believe in God? Do they believe in Satan? Do they even, you know what I mean? or is it a philosophy? Is it really religion? I don't know. And so what's interesting about that is that there exists this massive opportunity for Islam in America where, there's this elephant in the room. There's this question that we can ask. What would happen if Americans as a whole, as a majority, were exposed to the truth of Islam? Because people like myself, I couldn't deny it. I was exposed to the message of Islam at the age of 25. I couldn't deny it. It rang true to me. And of course, that won't be the case for every American, right? But how many? We don't know. And so, yeah, I think he brings up a good point here that there's this big gap. There's this big misunderstanding where a lot of people think they know what Islam is, but they really don't. And to me, it begs the question, what would happen? What would happen if these people were exposed to Islam? Is it possible that America could become a quarter of the population become Muslim? Or half? Wouldn't that be something? That would change the world.
The media is not helping either.
No.
The media, is not the right source to know about any religion, not alone Islam. So I think that this is our main challenge, the stereotype, the misconceptions that exist in the mind of many Americans about Islam. I hope I can help and make a dent on that and help some Americans to know more about Islam and to show them how similar those religions are.
So, Peter, this was a church.
Yeah, well said. And inshallah, this brother can accomplish this. And I hope myself to be a part of what he's describing here.
A Baptist church. And when we were looking for a mosque to purchase back in 2017, we were looking for actually a place that is designed as a worship place.
Okay.
So we don't get some headaches with the city. So this church was put for sale. They were relocating to another city. We did some minor changes. For example, we converted the gymnasium into a prayer hall.
Okay.
And basically that's it. And we left the rest as is. You will go inside and see our prayer hall.
Sure.
Just goes to show, what American churches are so weird. Why is there a gymnasium in your church? Do you need a gymnasium in the church? Is is the church the place you go to exercise? It's kind of weird. They can have anything. Some churches have drum sets and electric guitars, and you know what I mean? It's just Christianity in the West is just all over the place.
Take my shoes off, right?
Yes. About 500 people can fit in this room.
So you're about to run a service, right?
Yes.
Salat. Yes. Okay. Where do you want to
Salam.
go?
Wherever.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Salam alaikum. Salam alaikum.
You can tell here how sincere and respectful Peter is. He lowered his voice. He asked, "Where should I go?" He's respectful. I like that.
Okay, guys, so we're gonna get into a prayer. Sometimes these videos are more difficult than others. The Imam had limited time. So we're gonna talk to his son also, who I think is an Imam.
Allahu Akbar.
سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله
Allahu Akbar.
I always feel like this very calming energy
سبحان ربي
in mosques,
الأعلى وبحمده
in churches,
سبحان الله
in
سبحان
religious
الله
spaces.
سبحان الله
Even though I'm not religious, I can appreciate it. For this, it seems like daily meditation, a break from everything, technology, the noise, traffic lights.
It's man, they're really quiet. Yeah, it's not only daily meditation, it's multiple times. It's five times a day meditation. Even when I was into Buddhism and stuff, I didn't meditate that many times a day. Muslims are really about it.
So interesting, this juxtaposition, being in what feels like middle America. Dearborn, primarily Muslim population. And I think it's the majority. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the minority, but there are most amount of Muslims per capita here in Dearborn. So you have your normal suburbia Americana landscape with an old church that's turned into a mosque. Okay, we're going to talk to the imam's son, who is also an imam. The sponsor of today's video is Cuts.
Gotta skip this. Skip. And
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Your name?
Mohammed Kazwini.
Muhammad?
Kazwini is
Kazwini.
the Arabic version of Caspiani, the Caspian Sea.
Oh.
Yes, so we call it Qazwin. I was born overseas in Iran. My family is originally from Iraq.
Okay.
But at the time, Saddam was persecuting so many families. So my grandfather fled Iraq.
Right.
And he went to Kuwait and then to Iran. I was born in Iran at that time. And then when I was 7, we immigrated to the United States, to Los Angeles, California.
oh, beautiful brother there.
Tehrangeles.
Tehrangeles,
Okay.
also known Irangeles. Saddam was persecuting
Okay.
anyone who was not supporting him. Sunnis, like the Kurds are Sunnis.
Yep.
So he was persecuting anyone who was not supporting the Ba'athist regime.
Right.
So my grandfather was critical of the Ba'athist regime. So they imprisoned him a couple of times in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Then a death sentence was passed on him. That's when he fled Iraq.
Wow.
So how is it navigating Islam in the USA? You've been here most of your life.
Yes.
You've been Muslim since birth, right?
Yes.
So
that is
how is your journey been? What are the challenges?
Let me give you an example from today.
Okay.
So I went to New York City for a program. I just came back a couple of hours. And so I'm wearing my religious garment, right?
Okay. Yep.
This is the traditional attire that we wear,
Yep.
which basically is what the Prophet Muhammad used to wear,
Okay.
in some variation.
Sure.
So I was on the plane yesterday going to New York.
Right.
And I had the prayer bead in my hand.
Okay.
So I'm just making a prayer.
Yep.
And a fellow American was sitting across the aisle, and he looked at me and he was uncomfortable.
Okay.
And then he told me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I told him, "Yes, I'm okay. Why?" So the fact that he saw a Muslim with this attire,
Right.
and me supplicating on an airplane obviously triggered some sensors
Sure.
in him. So when I spoke to him in a fluent English accent, American accent, and I assured him who I am, what I do,
Yeah.
he was relieved.
Oh, wow,
because
that's
he,
beautiful.
when he saw this, he probably associated it with
Sure.
extremist Muslims
Sure.
or terrorists, right? So we are highly misunderstood. Once people come to know that we are Muslim, and there are Americans who've never had any interaction with Muslims.
Right.
Oh, I really like this brother Muhammad. He's got a really nice energy.
Or they've never had any Muslim friends. That does concern them. According to Pew Research, 74% of Americans who have anti-Muslim sentiments or some levels of Islamophobia or view Islam negatively, they don't have a single Muslim friend.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Sure.
So my message to my fellow Americans is, give us the opportunity to know one another. Once we break ice, we have shared human values. A lot of those fears, a lot of those concerns just fade away.
Yeah, but you're a great bridge. You're a great personality. You're a great face, and you speak perfectly. And you're obviously an extrovert. So some people might not have those skills. It might come into a community and be closed off, right? So the person that's living in the community might think, okay, who's this guy? And
Right,
why is he
they're
not?
so
Why is he
different.
not trying to connect with me in any way? And I think it's probably fear on both sides.
Absolutely.
Which would explain that.
In the Muslim community, we have a lot of challenges as well.
Yeah.
Those communities that you're referring to are recent immigrants. And I would say to my fellow Americans that these communities have gone through a lot. They've escaped either persecution
Right.
or war or trauma in wherever they came from. So when they come here, it takes a long time for them to, integrate into society,
Yeah.
get to know the American culture. And they probably have heard some negative remarks here and there that makes them fearful.
Right.
So even if you see someone who's different, who's an introvert, they're not really outgoing, make that contact.
Yep.
Take that step, and you will find that human friendship with them.
And know it's interesting. You would be considered conservative, right? You're a conservative
Well,
Muslim.
what scale are we using here?
Okay.
Brothers and sisters, I think this is something we can continue, complete on another day. Right now, I have some things I need to take care of. So, inshallah, we'll finish this one. I really enjoyed this video so far. It was very engaging for my mind, and kind of hits close to home. I mean, being an American myself, this is just really beautiful to see. And I like Peter here. He's honest and sincere. And anyways, inshallah, I hope you became closer to Allah from watching that video, and may Allah bless you generously for watching with me. And inshallah, we will see you in the next one. Masalama.